Let me just...
Well done.
Oh my gosh, it is! It's a tiny, weeny little thing. Oh. Yes, okay. Well, I'm not quite sure what it is.
Can you see what's on there?
Well, hello Kevin.
Hello.
Fancy bumping into you here. Hi everyone, as you can see I'm down on the Thames foreshore with my good mud friend Kevin, who has the YouTube channel Mammalian
Mudlark.
Mammalian Mudlark. Now there's a good tongue twister. So we are here, the tide's on the way out. What a great pleasure to be here with you, Kevin. What do you hope to find?
I'm going to go for 3 pebbles and I won't be disappointed.
3 pebbles.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Yeah, I'm going to go for, oh, I don't know, a nice coin. I'd like to find a nice coin
Coin
today.
would be nice.
Yeah, it would. So let's go and see what the tide is going to leave out for us today.
Good luck.
Thank you. Good luck to you too.
Cheers.
Now look at this. It's the tiniest piece of clay pipe stem. In fact, it's the very end of a clay pipe stem, which would have gone in the person's mouth. And I love it because it's got the red wax on it there, which would have helped to stop it from sticking to the person's lips. So down here I have spotted a vulcanite bottle stopper. Here it is with WCR on it, WCR Limited I think. A vulcanite bottle stopper. They were made from rubber and sulphur, heated to a very high temperature. There's an interesting little tooth here, look. With very long roots. How are you getting on there, Kevin?
Got a medieval belt mount.
Oh yes, look, that's so cool. That is beautiful. Oh, great find.
Cheers.
They're so tiny and delicate, those little mounts, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it was Chelsea found a bit of leather with them actually attached to it, which was pretty cool.
Who found that?
I think it was Chelsea.
Chelsea.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Great find.
Cheers.
Beats my vulcanite bottle stopper.
Only just.
Now, I think I may have found a tiny coin, but I could be completely wrong. I've actually got my magnifying glass out of my rucksack. It's just here. It could be nothing. It could be nothing, but it could be something. It does look hopeful, doesn't it?
Was there a little puddle I can wet it in?
Yeah, hang on. Let me dip my fingers in the water, not letting it go, of course.
Yeah.
Shall I get my magnifying glass up? Yeah. Don't drop it, Kevin.
No.
I'll never speak to you again. Do you think it's something?
That does look like a little hammer, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. Now, how on earth?
Yeah, well spotted.
Did I find that?
So.
Yeah. Let me just.
Well done.
Oh my gosh, it is! It's a tiny, weeny little thing. Oh. Yes. Okay. Well, I'm not quite sure what it is.
Can you see what's on there?
Do you want to have a look? Do you want to have a look under my magnifying glass? But I tell you what, I don't want to let it go because it would be terrible if the breeze.
Yeah, like you happened with the traders one time.
I'll hold it like that, okay? Can you see? It's a really.
Yeah, I think. I think that's, I don't know if you can see through the magnifier there. I think that's a Charles I
Ooh.
halfpenny. I'm not sure, don't quote me, but I think so.
Wow. Oh,
Well
where did I
done.
put my camera? Oh, it's in there. Ta-da! Well, and I said I wanted to find a coin.
Nicola's
I found
totally
a
with it.
tiny coin, and now we're gonna get attacked by the waves.
Well done. As you make the fire.
Thank you.
Yay. I'm jealous.
You know what? I thought I had another one for a minute, but it's actually the top of a nail. I'm fooled again. Hello, Crow. Have you got lunch in your beak? Oh, yes. Very clever. Very clever indeed. Looks delicious, whatever it is. Bon appetit. Oh, what have you got there, Kevin?
It's got a nice little tiny see the
little
dark
bead.
blue or black bead. Yeah.
Lovely.
It's quite a nice one. Yeah. I thought I had another little silver hammer like yours, but no, I'm sure it's not. No.
Really
In
nice
fact, it looks
square.
like it might have even been a little mound. You can see where there was like. Can you see the dot in the middle?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. It's probably a pewter mound.
All these little things sent to fool us.
It's just fooling me. Yeah. Oh well.
Keep it though,
Yeah. Okay.
and examine it thoroughly when you
Yeah.
get home. I didn't want to put it back down again here because I'm so worried it's going to be washed away, but I have just found another beautiful little coin. This is incredible. This is incredible. I've just called Kevin over so he can have a look. But look. Wow. Whoa. I'm blown away. That is so exciting. Woo. It was just sitting here amongst the rocks, and I'm going to show Kevin now. So, hello Kevin. Look what I just found sitting in the rocks.
Nearly lost it to a wave as well. Oh, it's another hammer.
I know. Look at that.
Wow.
That was just so fortuitous. I can't believe it really. It was
great.
just sitting there, down on the mud, just there.
Wow.
Don't let it blow away. Wow, they're so tiny and so light that you know if you let it go, it can just go woof.
Yeah, I think you nearly had
Flutter
that happen
into
to
the
a trader's,
river.
didn't
Yeah,
you?
I did. I did. Once I lost a trader's because I held it on my hand and it blew off, and I was on my knees scooping the mud up like this. And I did find it, but
That's
I don't
good.
want to have to do that again.
No, put it safe.
So look at that.
Yeah, well done. You're thrashing me again.
Woo.
I've got some catching up to do.
Oh, I can't believe it. Here's a nice piece of Staffordshire slipware. Let's have a little scrape around here. What's this? Oh look, it's part of a buckle. That is really beautiful. Lovely. And look down here, you can see another really tasty piece of Staffordshire slipware. Let's look at this. Isn't that nice? This looks like a biscuit, doesn't it? And look, there's another piece here. That's so pretty, isn't it? I've got 3 different pieces now, completely different designs. There we go. Look at that. Aren't they lovely? This a wave, Kevin. Now, I'm never very good at discovering flints and prehistoric finds, but I have seen over here a dinosaur. Well, little dinosaur, it's your lucky day. You can come and join the other Thames orphans in the Tideline Art Thames Orphan Shelf. Do you want to see the oldest thing that I've just found?
Got it. Whoa. It's great. Whoa. Hey. I'm sorry.
Kevin.
Well, I think I've just got a silver coin, but it's absolutely annihilated. It's just totally beyond
You certainly
help.
deserve a silver coin. Oh, let's see.
It's just destroyed.
Right. But silver coin, nevertheless. It's quite heavy, isn't it?
Yeah, it might even be pewter, but
Well
oh
done.
well.
Well done.
It's not quite a hammer coin.
Well, the tide is coming up very rapidly. I think I've just seen the top of what could be a medieval money box. Yeah, it looks like it. It looks like the top of a money box that they used to put the money in at the theatre, the Globe Theatre, I believe. Oh, look at that. I don't think she's interested.
Well, I've got a gold coin.
You got a gold coin.
That'll do.
Hooray! There you are. There you are, you see. It's waiting for you all along.
Yeah.
Kevin, have you found your 3 objects? Have you found 3 objects?
Well, I've got medieval belt mount, a bead, and possibly a silver coin or pewter, I don't know.
Well, that's fantastic.
Not really.
Yes, it is. Yes,
It's
it
not
is.
hammer coins, is it, Nicola?
Well, no, but the medieval
Belt
I'm going to
mount.
say that again. The medieval belt mount, oh, that's quite a mouthful actually, is really lovely. I love those.
Yeah, they're cool.
Yeah, and the bead is great too, and
Yeah,
also
beads are
possibly
nice.
the coin. So, done really well, and I have found some lovely things too.
You found some awesome things.
No, I did, and I'm going to look into them, clean them up, and yeah, I will tell you more about them, everyone, when I get home.
Looking forward to getting an ID on the medieval hammers.
Yeah, we're going to go and do that now, aren't we? We're going to
Yeah.
go sit down,
Yeah,
have a nice
a beer.
drink, have a
Yeah.
beer, and look at our bounty.
Yeah. I'll sit there being jealous.
So So we are on the way to have a nice refreshing drink, and there's another coin here, and it is a modern one, so that is perfect for the Thames charity box. Also down here there is a key, pretty modern key, but I do have a bowl full of keys at home, so I will add that to the collection. There's Mum and Dad, and here are the babies. Yes, you've got lovely babies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, they're beautiful. Off they go.
Well, Nicola's totally thrashed me again, so she gets the Kinder Egg.
Hooray! Thank you very much, Kevin. Thank you.
Cool.
Hi everyone, thank you very much indeed for watching. I hope you're well wherever you're watching from, and welcome to my studio where, as you can see, I'm surrounded by lots and lots of objects that I've either found in the River Thames or that have washed up on beaches around the UK. And I'm always so happy to be in this room surrounded by these treasures. And I'm also very happy now to have the opportunity to spend some time with you all talking about some of the objects which you saw us find during that mudlarking adventure. So thank you very much indeed again to Kevin. Thank you, Kevin, for your company during that outing, and thank you for the Kinder Egg. I really enjoyed it. And if you haven't yet discovered Kevin's YouTube channel, please go on over and take a look. It is Kevin Medway Mammalian Mudlark, bit of a tongue twister. And Kevin has found some amazing objects in the river, and he makes absolutely fascinating videos. Now, Kevin, I know that you're a little bit envious of my 2 coins, but you did find a super medieval belt mount and some other lovely treasures. And you know what it's like, you just don't know what the Thames is going to give up. And it's been a while since I've found some old coins, and to find 2 in one day, I was particularly lucky, but it will be your turn next, so don't get despondent. And it's so true, we don't know what we're going to find when we go down to the river, and I think it's that anticipation which is exciting and which keeps us all going back. But even if you find nothing on the river, just the very sort of act of being there and experiencing the seasons and the elements and the lovely water noises and just the general atmosphere of being down on the river, you always leave, I find, in a really good state of mind. So it was an excellent outing, and of course made all the better, of course, by finding those 2 extraordinary silver coins. And I'm going to just say a little bit about them in a moment, but before I do that, I wanted to mention something about the last object, or one of the last objects that you saw me find, which is this little piece of pottery here, which is actually the knop off of the top of a Tudor money box. And this is probably linked to some of the many theatres or other entertainment venues which were found along the South Bank in London back in Tudor times, because this came from top of a money box, which was in all probability used to collect money from theatre goers and people going to watch other entertainment things like bear baiting or cockfighting or other delightful things like that. In its entirety, it would have had a bulbous body, and it would have had one hole to put the money in, and then to get the money out, it would have had to be smashed. And so it's for that reason that quite a lot of mudlarks find these little knops here. And this is the first one I found, so I'm really thrilled. It's thought that maybe string could have been tied around the top here and then attached to the belt of the gatherer who went round to collect money from the theatre goers. That's just one of the ideas anyway, but it's a super piece of London history, and it just goes to show that something small like that can tell a really interesting story. So now to the coins. The tiniest coin I think I've found, this one here, quite remarkable really that I ended up finding it at all. It's so tiny, it was very, very lucky. And it is a Charles I silver halfpenny. And yeah, it is one of the tiniest coins. And so I wanted to show you it next to my Elizabeth I silver half a crown, which is probably the largest coin I found. And just take a look at the difference in size. I found this several years ago. That is probably one of my most extraordinary coin finds. You can see Queen Elizabeth I there. I hope I've got it the right way around. Yes, I have. There she is. And just compare it to this tiny little Charles I halfpenny there. Incredible, isn't it? So I wanted to find out more about Charles I. When you find something when you're mudlarking, it's always motivating to do research and find out more about that object. And so Charles I, he reigned from 1625 to 1649. But I had this idea that I could contact my friend Johnny, who has a London walking tour business called Bowl of Chalk. He does tailor-made walks and all sorts of different walks. So I contacted him and asked him if it would be possible to do a walk in London to go and visit some of the places linked to Charles I. And so that's exactly what we did.
Hi, Johnny.
Hello, Nicola. How you doing?
Fine, thank you.
So I hear that you found Charles I somewhere on the Thames.
I absolutely did.
Well, we're officially in the centre of London, and we're at the statue of Charles I. It was made during Charles I's lifetime, and he became king in 1625. And this is the oldest bronze equestrian statue in Britain. So we're going to talk a little bit about Charles I and what happened to him. So he was actually executed. He's the only monarch we've ever executed. Never done it before, never done it since. And the execution actually took place on Whitehall just behind you, where we're going to go. So I'll just explain a little bit in my Johnny kind of brief rundown way. So Charles I, so he became king in 1625, and like his father James I, very much believed that they had the divine right of kings, which meant that they were chosen by God, which is quite interesting in his case because actually his brother Henry was supposed to become king. He died in 1612 when this guy was 12 years old. So he became king. He was actually tiny because it's not unusual to find him on a horse because he was only about 5'3". I think he had polio when he was a kid, and I'm pretty sure that in the Museum of London they still have these boots with stirrups that they had to hold him up. And actually in the National Gallery just over there they have a painting, a portrait of him on a horse, and actually the artist squished the horse's head down to make him look even bigger, just so they often showed him on a horse. Anyway, so he became king, and in I think 1629 dissolved Parliament, and he got rid of Parliament because he was basically, I'm so unbelievably amazing, I've been chosen by God, I don't need any of you guys. And then he ruled on his own for the next 11 years, which obviously created a few problems, and it led to a couple of civil wars in the 1640s. The very basic, it's much more nuanced than this, but it's basically royalists who supported the king and parliamentarians who was everyone else, and everyone else won, and he was executed on the 30th of January 1649 for effectively treason, which is crimes against himself. And we will go past the exact site where he was executed. Now the other thing about this statue, it's amazing it's here, because obviously we became a republic for effectively 12 years, and the main guy was a guy called Oliver Cromwell. And as you can probably imagine, they wanted to get rid of everything to do with this guy. And this statue was actually given to a guy called John Rivet. And John Rivet was told to melt it down and turn it into souvenirs that people could buy on the day of the execution. So in the same way, like behind you there is a sort of rubbishy souvenir shop with, you know, you can buy I Love London key rings. It was the same idea, but it was to celebrate or commemorate the king being executed. So it turns out that John Rivet was a royalist, which he obviously didn't tell anyone, and he melted down something else, hid this for 12 years, and then what happened is we changed our minds, you know, that's never happened before, or again, and we invited back this guy's son in 1660. That's known as the Restoration period, because the monarchy was restored. John Rivet suddenly came out of the woodwork, got a meeting with Charles II, and was like, "You'll never guess what's in my garage. Do you remember that statue of your old man?" And then he sold it back to him, which is pretty genius. And then Charles II had it re-erected where we are now to mark the centre of London. And the reason it's kind of the centre of London, because London actually started over in the east, over there in the city, which was Londinium, the Roman city, going back to 43 AD when they came over, and that became the medieval city of London. And then when that, so if you go back 1,000 years, you had everyone in the London over there, and then they built a church in the middle of nowhere down here called St. Peter's, and the people over in the east called this church the West Church, the Westminster, and this became the royal and government area. And when they used to have hot meetings, they kind of came here into effectively woodland and would have a little meeting about stuff. And then they decided, obviously London completely kind of started migrating west, but they still use it as a centre. And the other thing that's interesting about this, which you might know anyway, but cab drivers, so you can see there's a guy driving a cab just over there, he's had to learn within 6 miles of this exact spot of Charles I, something like about, I think it's 40,000 streets, about 320 routes, about 5,000 statues, hotels, monuments, places of interest, all that kind of stuff, all within 6-mile radius of this. It's called Learning the Knowledge. This is a very small section I printed out from a map called the Agas map that was created in 1561. It's like a sort of cross between a bird's eye view and a map. This here is Trafalgar Square, which is just behind us. These are actually Henry VIII's stables that he had, and actually it's got these sticky uppy bits here, which I'm down with all the architectural terms. And the other thing that you'll notice is that the National Gallery is now on this site, and they were similar designs on the top of the gallery because they were air vents to let the horse manure drift out the top. This road here, which you were just looking down, is called Strand. Strand in German, Dutch, Norwegian, Danish, basically most Northern European languages means beach. That's where the word stranded comes from. So we've actually pushed back, which ties in with all the mudlarking stuff, the River Thames in this section here. This is Whitehall that we're going to walk down, and this is St James's Park here. So lots of our parks began as actually hunting grounds. So this was Henry VIII's hunting ground originally back in the 16th century, because he built St James's Palace just a little bit down here, which funny enough our friend Charles I had to stay in the night before he had his head chopped off on the 30th of January 1649.
I bet he didn't sleep very well that night.
He didn't. Well, who knows? I don't think I would have done.
Are we standing just here then?
We're standing right where this is. Interestingly, there's a replica of this outside Charing Cross station, which was actually built in the 1860s as a PR stunt to announce the new Charing Cross railway station. And in fact, Charing Cross Road, which is just behind us, was actually called Hog Lane up until that point, as in wild pigs, because this was all had been woodland. Right, so this is Banqueting House, commissioned by James I. So James I is Charles I's dad, in 1622, and the architect was a guy called Inigo Jones. It's called Banqueting House because they obviously had lots of banquets there and masques where they would get dressed up in sort of fancy clothes, and it was like a mix of opera and concerts and all sorts going on. And then after James I died, Charles I, who we're talking about, got a guy called Peter Paul Rubens to paint the ceiling. And actually what he did, he was over in Holland and he painted this amazing scene on canvases, which were then put up into the ceiling. And in terms of this whole divine right to rule, James I is in the centre, almost like God. He is God in the centre of the whole thing. And obviously he'd paid a fortune to have this ceiling done, so he then banned having all these banquets in there. because all the candlelight was ruining all the
So
stuff.
that's in there then?
Yeah, that's all in there. You can go in. It's part of the historic royal palaces, along with like the tower and
Yeah.
Hampton Court. So, on the 30th of January 1649, Charles I walked through the gate that was here into Banqueting House. They built a scaffold outside and he climbed out onto the window here. This is where everyone congregated to watch their monarch for the first and last time be executed. And thousands of people came here to watch his head get chopped off. And there's a little bust of his head above the door commemorating the fact. Now the other thing as well, so I'm going to show you a funny little thing about this area, Horse Guards here, which is that the execution was apparently supposed to take place at 2 o'clock, and I think they faffed around for about 10 minutes while Charles I did a speech, you know, as you would. Oh yeah, he also famously wore 2 shirts. It's a very famous thing. I think the Museum of London have one of his shirts because it was winter and it was very cold, and he was worried that the public would misinterpret his shivering for fear, and he didn't want them to think he was scared of being his head chopped. Anyway, so they killed him at 2:10. So if you come with me over here, where the guards are and horses, excellent timing, everyone's gone. And then you look up at the clock that's looking over. This actually dates back to the 1750s. The clock up there, you've got the hours around the inside and the minutes around the edge, and the number 10, 210, is blacked out, and it represents the time that we killed the King, Charles I. Through the park, cold winter's morning, to his death here. The other thing about it as well, we're going to go and have a look at where he had a trial and he was executed for treason, as I mentioned, so it's effectively kind of crimes against himself, which is quite bizarre. But he was adamant that, you know, it was a sham trial, that you couldn't execute a king, that it was never going to happen, and obviously it did. And I mean, it was a big event for everyone, I suppose. 12 years after we executed Charles I, we invited back Charles I's son, who's called Charles II, and he had been having a whale of a time in Paris. And he was a little bit concerned, obviously, that we had executed his father, and there were a lot of people in the country who didn't want him to be king. So he decided it might be a good idea to get a bodyguard. So from what I can gather, he sort of handpicked the best soldiers from the military, formed a new battalion which is called the Household Cavalry, or the King's Guard, and this originally was actually an entrance into St James's Palace, which is actually currently where Charles and Camilla live, in Clarence House. It's one of the main royal palaces, and they were guarding his palace, and they accompanied him around as a sort of bodyguard. And apparently he was very much under the impression that having a big black horse was far scarier and more imposing, and they still actually have black horses today. And the other thing, I think it must have been like 1895, they realised that they weren't guarding anything anymore. They'd all chipped off to the pub. Queen Victoria got wind of it and was so upset that she ordered them to stand here every day for 100 years, between 10 o'clock and 4 o'clock. That ran out in about 1995. Obviously in England we love a ceremony, so they still do it. And at 4 o'clock, these guys, they do an hour shift on horses. And by the way, these are the only ceremonial guards left in London that you can go and see, and they're guarded by police with guns. They have to all come back at 4 o'clock and line up, and the inspection is called the punishment inspection. And they still do it, and someone comes out and makes sure they look very smart and they've got shiny shoes and all that kind of stuff, and then they can go to the pub after that. So this guy isn't going anywhere until 4 o'clock. So we're at the back of St Margaret's Church, which is the new church. This was finished in the 1520s as opposed to Westminster Abbey that's next door. Funny little thing about this, that again, Charles I's head. This is the guy who had his head chopped off that we've been talking about. And the guy responsible for chopping his head off effectively was called Oliver Cromwell, who took over, and he couldn't be called a king, he was called the Lord Protector, and we effectively went into a republic. And opposite Charles is none other than Oliver Cromwell. So the two men were foes in their own lifetime, and now, by some weird quirk of fate, are staring at each other across the road. So even in death, they're still antagonising each other. It's pretty remarkable. Now, Oliver Cromwell gets interesting because when we invited back this guy's son, Charles II was like, you know what, guys? Because all the what we call regicides, so people who are responsible for killing the king, were getting a bit worried, as you would. And Charles went, "Don't worry, guys. I'll let it all go." And then he changed his mind, and they rounded them all up, and it became this huge manhunt. And they went around the world killing people that were responsible for executing Charles I. And then, if you were already dead, you didn't escape. So in fact, Oliver Cromwell had been dead for 4 years, and he was buried in Westminster Abbey just here, and they actually dug him up and re-killed him all over again, and then his head ended up on a spike on that building for about 20 years.
Oh my goodness.
Just behind him. So even if you were dead, you were not safe from being killed all over again, just to make a point. So we're on College Green, and behind me is officially the Royal Palace of Westminster, otherwise known as the Houses of Parliament, and the big sticky uppy bit here is called the Victoria Tower. That you can hear, that's not Big Ben actually, that's the quarter bell. So inside this bit of the tower is something ridiculous, like 3 million bills of parliament that have been passed since the 1400s, and I'm pretty sure that one of them is Charles I's death warrant with all the signatures of people, one of which was Oliver Cromwell, who is just behind us over there. So the palace was a medieval palace, and it grew and grew and grew and grew over the years until in 1834 they had a big old fire, and it's quite ridiculous, as often is the case in British history. There are a couple of guys who had been asked to get rid of something called tally sticks, and they were wooden sticks that they had that notches on if you owed money, and they hadn't used them for decades, and they said, could you just get rid of them? And they had this genius idea of lighting a fire under the palace and leaving it overnight, and they burnt down pretty much an entire royal palace, a medieval palace. The Great Hall that we've just walked past is one of the very, very few surviving bits. It was built in the late 11th century, and that exact hall is massive. It was the largest hall in the whole of Europe, and in fact they still can't work out how they managed to put the roof on, because it was physically impossible. It's got this incredible hammer beam roof that was built in the 14th century, and that was the exact place where Charles I's trial, I think it was a 3-day trial, started I think on like the 20th of January. It was a pretty much foregone conclusion that he was going to get found guilty, and that's where it all happened. It's something like 17,000 square feet of floor space. It's huge, and has been in the news more recently because that's where the Queen lay in state. So that's where thousands and thousands of people, and David Beckham, and came to watch the Queen lay in state. So that's where it all happened in there. Westminster Abbey is you could just see the top of it there. Those are 18th century towers, and then the back of it is just behind this building here. So a lot of our monarchs are buried in Westminster Abbey, but I think because of the sort of political nature of the whole thing and executing a monarch, they decided that it was probably better not to do that in central London. So he was buried in St George's Chapel in Windsor, which is about 20 odd miles outside of London, which is where the Queen was also buried last year. And I guess they had to probably stick his head back on before they did.
And I wonder if you could tell us a bit, please, about Bowl of Chalk walking tours.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a tour guide, and I do walking tours around London, which this month will be my 12th year. And I do private walks for people. I spend a lot of time around this area, and I might go meet them in their hotel, or we put together an itinerary of what they would like to see and what they want to get out of it. Sometimes I do half days, sometimes I do whole days, but then also I do some regular weekend walks which work on a pay what you want basis, and I do about 11 different walks, all in different areas of London. Each one's a couple of hours, and then people let me know and they come along. And apart from one, I do a great fire walk. I'm not very good at sticking to a theme, and it's the only thematic one. They're generally just things that I like. It's very selfish. I just tell people things that I like, and I wander around talking about it, and I have to hope that other people do as well.
Well, I've certainly enjoyed this. It's been fascinating. And you're on social media, you've got Instagram.
Yeah, so all the handles are just Bowl of Chalk, so at Bowl of Chalk, and I've got Instagram. I've been putting, this year I've been doing a whole series of fun London facts, which generally are about a minute to a minute and a half. So all the ones that are under a minute I've been doing YouTube shorts of, but they're on Instagram and TikTok. And yeah, I've got a website as well, and you can just contact me on there if you fancy either doing a private walk or coming on a group walk. It'd be lovely to see you.
Fantastic. And just before we go, Bowl of Chalk. Yeah, what's it all about? Why is it called a bowl of chalk?
Well, it's so when I was looking for a name, a lot of people called London Walk, walking tours in London, let's go on a walk in London, basically anything with London and walks in. And in London there's a sort of vernacular called Cockney rhyming slang, use your loaf of bread, head,
Apples and pears upstairs.
all that kind of dog and bone folk. So there's actually a few. One is Ball of Chalk, then there's Bowl of Chalk, and then there's something called Pennyforth of Chalk. And I think Ball of Chalk is the one I get every week. I probably get a Cockney writing to tell me it's actually Ball of Chalk, but I just preferred Bowl of Chalk, which is actually also you. So effectively it means to go on a walk in a London vernacular. So yeah, that's how I came about the name.
Thank you so much, Johnny, for that. I really, really enjoyed it. And I hope that you've learned something that you didn't know. I certainly did. And wouldn't it be incredible if this little coin had perhaps been used to buy one of the souvenirs to commemorate the death of the poor, unfortunate Charles I? We'll never know what it was used for, but whenever I find a coin, I can't help but wonder about the person who lost it all those years ago. And do go on over and check out Johnny's Instagram, which is Bowl of Chalk. And if you're visiting London and you want to do something special, then what better than to do a very, very interesting walking tour around London. Certainly, I'm going to do some more. And maybe I can do one related to Queen Elizabeth next. I'll have to see if I can get in on the waiting list, because I think Johnny is pretty busy. Now, my other coin, which is slightly bigger, although not a lot bigger, and it's still very, very wafer thin, which is why I grabbed it really quickly as soon as I saw it, because I was so worried about it just disappearing back into the waves. Apparently is an Edward coin. Now, unfortunately, I don't know which King Edward that is, despite looking through the book Coins of England, which my friend Steve gave to me. Sorry, Steve, I'm still as bad as I've always been at identifying coins. But this one is a bit of a challenge because it's quite worn, and I am hoping that maybe some of you out there might be able to give me your thoughts. Let me know which King Edward you think this coin belongs to. I will look forward to reading your comments. So that is it from me. That's all I'm going to talk about today. I hope that you enjoyed that. Thank you ever so much for watching. Thank you for all your support. And thank you to everybody who has donated to my Ko-fi, and super thanks. I really appreciate your donations. But thank you most of all for being yourselves. I hope that you go on now to have an excellent rest of weekend or week. Do something this week that you really enjoy doing. Do lots of things for yourself, and be happy. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again very soon with more adventures in the mud. Take care. Bye-bye.